All right, test. Cool. Yeah, I've been having a lot of resistance early lately to talk about resistance because I might not be the best person to actually share on tips on how to be on the path of least resistance, but at the same time, I felt like I've been walking the path of least resistance without realizing that control is also needed because resistance doesn't mean fully surrender to everything that is and forget who you are, forget your purpose, and forget that you are a soul, and that you are also in the process of building an identity that will help you essentially accomplish your goals and biggest dreams in life. But I felt like I resisted a lot too. At the same time, I was able to embrace the path of least resistance without being aware of these things. I've also resisted so much, and with all this resistance, I was also creating more resistance. Resistance towards being with certain people in certain environments that I knew was not good for me based on my own beliefs. And whether I was right or not, I would never find out because when your brain is like fully convinced that something is not good for you, whether this thing is right or wrong, your brain is basically right because in its own experience, this belief is being proved in the past. So whether you believe it or not, you're right. You probably heard that before, right? Like whether you think you're right or not, you're right. It's something like that. But it's basically saying, like, if you have this strong belief about something, whether this thing is proved to be true or not, for you it's true. And in this case, that's what matters. That's what's gonna be uh, upon action. That's what's gonna validate the whole situation, experience, whatever thing you are in. And to me, I felt like I didn't have much choice sometimes in terms of like I wanted to change something, and I knew once again like this thing is not good to me, but for lack of choice and of power, control, self-love, all those different things that truly matters when it comes to you owning yourself, owning your body, and actually being in control as opposed to allowing other intelligences or other things to be in control, can matter more than anything. I mean, obviously, there are times when you want to surrender to the flow of intelligence, which is your own intelligence, and the moments, these moments when you have no doubt about something and it's just happened, you can look back and you can see, wow, I did a good job, and you're not questioning whether it was you or something else that really took over. And I feel like everybody has a certain degree of mediumship. Mediumship is basically the act of channeling, right? Like, let's say someone's entity wants to use my body to communicate to itself. This has happened many times in the past. So it's almost like the soul, the voice inside is like shifted into the soul that wants to communicate to its own mind. And that basically kicks my own awareness existence for some time. Or maybe the two existences can exist, can co-create at the same time. It's very interesting, mind-blowing to say, and it's okay if you don't believe it, but because I have experienced and backed up by some of my previous studies in spiritism and mediumship, I've you know I'm totally okay with this. Like, it's completely normal for me, to me. But getting back to resistance, I feel like resistance is also what we call the enemy, because anything that is against your highest good could be the enemy. And the enemy operates with resistance. meaning you want to become a singer, you want to become the highest performer in the school you are in. The resistance itself can be the thing that will act as force against all the actions that will ultimately help you to become this greatest performer, to become this greatest singer. The resistance can also be like you doing something and somebody else getting the picture, basically serving as a distraction um, to influence you to stop what you're doing. The resistance can be like a negative thought that you can suddenly have it in the middle of your presentation, and suddenly you stop it in something and you don't keep going because of that thought. And the resistance can come in so many different ways, and only you being truly aware, awake about what's going on 24/7 that is influencing you to go right and left can and will free you, right? We've all been saying that we want to be saved, that we want to surrender to all this agony of like being triggered all the time. I've been triggered for the last 7 years tremendously, and it's not easy. Like since I became aware of my emotions, of my spiritual state, and realizing that there were times where I felt like the highest, and there were times where one little thing I had to accept would completely like change my state. I started since then like fighting those moments where something could be influencing my state. I just wanted to stay kind of like holding on to the state I was in, and that didn't help at all. I wish I knew at that time that if I had just like surrendered to the idea that all the states are impermanent, and that essentially like it's always going to be shifting and changing, and as long as I'm okay with that changes and those shifts, I shouldn't be worried about whether it feels like hotter at certain times and colder at other times, or like at higher states versus lower states. Like all of this is just like an attachment, and that attachment can create more suffering. It can hold you to earth. So basically for you to operate from higher states of consciousness, like aka heaven, you must be able to surrender and let go of all your desires in earth. And that's kind of like mind-blowing, right? Like if you want to operate from fifth dimension, where manifestations happen much faster, where you do accomplish much faster your goals, the dreams, desires, things that you never imagined that you want to suddenly come into fruition, you must forget everything you want at this time. And I'm not saying gonna completely like give up of yourself and not just do anything because you feel like you're desireless. What I'm saying is that you have to essentially forget this like sense of like I want this so badly, or simply like give up of that feeling that without this thing you can't be happy, and then you're fully gonna be, and then you can fully surrender and be able to experience the highest truth, the highest source of love from higher places. Do you understand the difference? Like if I let go, for example, of wanting to have a particular profession or business, and let go of that condition that I have placed on myself of like I must have this in order to be happy, then I'm allowing myself to be happy without having this thing yet. Obviously deeper down I know I've wanted this before, I know things could be much better with this, so I can give up of this, and if it actually happens, it manifests truly fully from a higher place, then I'm okay, then I'm happy. But of course there are many other things that comes into that kind of intervenes this whole like process experience, right, of like detaching, attaching, wanting, not wanting, surrendering, accepting, and influences like the people you surround yourself to, the energies you carry, that the energies you're bringing in home and that you are letting go. It can be influencing your state all the time. So sometimes it feels like the moment you realize that you can be in control of something that can truly help you to operate from the higher place, those higher places, then you want to master that aspect, and you just be very good at controlling. And you got to be careful, because sometimes when you feel like you're so in control of this thing that you know it can be bringing you sadness, and you're actually mastering, staying away from the thing that makes you sad, you might not realize that actually this thing that you think is bringing you sad, it could be actually bringing you healing. So your distortions about like the things you think you should be in control versus not could be tremendously be impacting you as well on this process. So it's funny, we're fucked up one way or another. um, Excuse my language. But yeah, like resistance is can be your friend. We can turn that force that we call enemy now into a friend once you truly, fully, purely embrace all aspects of yourself the way you are, and you become whole. Basically, like, you have this true energies, boom, together. My yin and my yang is like this right now. So they can be operating in harmony. Like, we're always shifting at the same time to one place. We're not fighting to go opposite ways. When we shift together. When we walk together. It's not that one side wants to walk one side and the other wants to walk the other way, because then there will be two resistances happening simultaneously. And in order for the stars to align, you need to have this agreement with yourself, body, mind, and soul in alignment. I like to say that your look, mastering your look, means being body, mind, and soul, and having all your chakras in place. So if you're not taking care of aligning your chakras, like, I'm here to remind you, like, when it comes to fighting resistance, adapting a spiritual hygiene is extremely important. Whether you use chanting, yoga, journaling, gratitude list, all these practices helps prior to do anything during the day. Even if your day starts like 4 o'clock because you spent all your day taking care of this practice, I'm here to tell you it's better to spend all this time building your faith, building your health, and then working a few hours and doing something really, really good with quality, with effectiveness, professionalism, and quality. I think I already said quality. Instead of just like going with your day and attracting a lot of negativity, which all this negativity later can lead into more problems, right? Like, when you just let yourself go with the energy you are, with this, like, in the state you're in, just because you're like, I have to get stuff done, you end up sometimes creating more stress for yourself, right? Like, if you treat someone poorly, for example, you have this like open relationships, basically, like this open ties, like people who you build karmic ties that you have to essentially go back to later and apologize or change your negative impression to them, so you can be like back to zero, right? Or I don't know, maybe it's an essay that you end up doing not performing well because you were not at your highest place. Or buying, like, you end up buying maybe things you really didn't need, or doing stupid things, or changing plans and things because you were based on that state. So what I teach and tell all my mentees all the time is like, master your state first before you go out in the world to accomplish things. Like, seriously, like, go out in the morning and just like feel your creativity, feel your mental, physical well-being by doing all these different things and learning how to be resistant one thing at a time. Like, you start with recognizing that negative thought of like, I don't want to work out today, and then you play the watcher and like, I wonder why. Like, you pretend to be that voice to yourself. That's something really crazy that you can do in your own psychic. And then you're like, I wonder why. Like, why would I not want to go to the gym? Like, the gym is such a fun place. What if I can meet the lover of my life there? What if today is the day when I can recognize the amazing benefits working out can bring out to me. Like, this is just a simple example, but there are many different things you can basically, like, the conversation you have with yourself is so important to fight the resistance, because the resistance will come in different ways, like in thoughts and inner monologues, through people, through gestures, external conditions. Way of Even the weather can be working towards resistance, like can be on your own way, right? Like, you want to run in the morning, and the resistance you're fighting is because the weather is not in the perfect condition, and you're like, no, it's too windy. Yeah, that's when you can beat the enemy. It's too windy, but I can still work out. It's too windy, but I can still move my body, and it's gonna feel amazing, because that wind on me, like, on my back, and like shivering my hair, it's gonna be enough to elevate my state of mind, body, and soul. So this is when you again are tested to increase your strength by recognizing these moments. And if you really want to reward yourself with that, like if you were serious about beating resistance, like, make a list of the things you would like to work on, like the things you want to fight resistance the most. Oh, like, I want to sing more often, and I feel like I'm always resisting singing, even though singing is one of the happiest things in my life. Like, I grew up when I was a child, that was all I wanted to do. But I feel like after all these many years, the negative experience I've had in the past regarding singing, have probably created this, like, negative voice, basically, or force that could be preventing me from actually doing more of my singing or art, right? Maybe like, just picture all the activities you want to see yourself doing more often, or even like this big thing that you really want for yourself, but yet it feels like you want to say it outside, and there's like this resistance, this force that is like, no, you can't, you can't. Yes, you can, but in order to open up this thing, you need to be able to see it clearly, what that is. And a lot of the times we are blind because we are just like so tunnel vision with what's going on in front of us, because we are blinded by our senses, and we don't see what's underlying, like what's underneath the layers, right? So we want to be able to open up more this vision here, your third eye, your heart chakra, your throat chakra, because when you express, more things opens up. When you see, you are able to see what actually needs to be taken off the way. And that's the process. Like, you keep opening up, even at times when life closes you up, you open up, and you realize that there's no like something outside of you that is actually like trying to stop you, but it's just how your body, how this whole psychic, this incredible intelligence operates, and we just need to find out ways to make this work in our favor as opposed to against us. So I think we tapped a lot in resistance for this video, but I am building a course right now just to teach people to get out of resistance, to be able to fight resistance. It's a great course for entrepreneurs, for artists, for people who want to start their own business, for people who want to make a big shift in their lives, and yet they think they can't make this big shift because of fear, and essentially to help them to fight resistance. It's gonna be incredible. Will be very polished, with a price that everyone can afford, because my goal is really to help people, is to also help myself to get out of this and be able to learn what are these mechanisms, like what are these techniques we can use, and essentially we are able to build a better life, because you now realize that you can be your best friend, that you have the tools needed to help yourself move forward. So thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.